Thank you for coming. We're delighted that you came. We have a program. We have some tips and things to share with you to make your parish a singing parish, because that's such an important thing in our faith. Vicki and my name is Barbara Minton. I'm from Southgate, Michigan. And Vicki Pappas, you maybe all know her already, and she's from Buffalo. We've worked on this program, this presentation to share with you. Vicki will be doing the presentation of it. We've both been educators for many, many years, and church musicians for many more years than we were educators, working in our parishes and at the metropolis level through our church musicians federations and at the national level. So we have very limited time, so I'm not going to dwell on introductions, and I'm going to turn it over to Vicki. And as you entered, you saw some of our materials, and they will be there after the presentation. So on your way out, you can take another look at that. Okay, thank you, and take it away, Vicki.
I think maybe our first one. I want to move around. I think. Well, it is good to see all of you, and hopefully we'll be able to give you some ideas to thinking about how do you create a singing church. Some of you I've been talking to already have a good start on that, but hopefully we'll be able to hear some of those good ideas of what to do. I just wanted to show George the agenda. What we're trying to do today is give you an idea of where we're coming from. That's the building blocks. What sort of undergirds the thinking of the National Forum of why we see this as part of the National Forum of Church Musicians. This is part of our overarching agenda for the as the music ministry of the Archdiocese. What we're helping. So we'll share a little bit of that thinking, and then give you some ideas to think about planning and fostering congregational singing in your parish. But then we want to challenge you a little bit, and we're calling it moving beyond. How do you go further in your parish in creating a singing parish? And then last, as Barbara said, you've seen some of our resources outside, and we'll be sharing some ideas about those too. So I'd like us to start, if you would, with a prayer. And of course, we're going to ask you to sing the prayer today. So if you'll stand, please.
This is the green book of the old green.
Thank you. This is the new green book. This is the new green book that has the standard translation, and we'll be talking a lot about that. But this is where it came from. The idea that's different about it is that the English has the words fitting the music rather than, no, I'm saying that wrong. The words are fitting the music rather than trying to squeeze in words into the Greek way of singing it. So there are changes when we do English, but we've got a lot of church musicians here to help you. But let's all sing and pray together. And there's our note. English. Here we are. Okay. Holy God, holy mighty, holy immortal, have mercy. and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, now and forever, and to the ages of ages. Amen. Holy, immortal, have mercy on us. Thank you. That was very good. That's good point. All right. Building blocks. These are some of the things that that we think about being choral singers and chanters in the National Forum of Church Musicians. But we share these because they're, it's not just a simple idea of, well, we're going to have congregational singing, or we're going to have a singing parish. It's why is it so important to us as Orthodox Christians? And I think this is really the basis of everything that sometimes people don't even remember. Hymns are prayers. They're prayers. They're not songs. They're hymns, and they come from Scripture. And when people ask us, are you a scriptural church? Well, everything we sing during the services comes from Scripture. And another part of this I call this the foundation, that 80% of the liturgy is either sung or intoned. We're singing constantly. The priest is intoning all the time. The deacon is intoning. And I found this little quote, and I thought it was a good summary. We sing our prayers, and our prayers are sung.
Me.
And another thing to think about is it's not necessary in our parishes that we sing out loud. I remember a great book, the Divine Liturgy by Father Stanley Heracus, and he would caution us to remember that you don't have to sing things aloud. A lot of people like what he called sub-singing. They are singing, but you might not hear them, but they're going in their mind, they're singing, and they know what they're doing. But it's a quiet thing. But it's not wrong if you sing aloud. So it's a little bit of a way to think about it. Okay? Second, besides our hymn being prayers, the very structure of our services demands that the people sing. The deacon says, let us pray to the Lord. And come, let us worship. Let us bow our heads. There's instructions going on from the deacon telling the people what to do, and yet still so many of our people are just standing, there looking around, seeing who just came in the door, not really with the what's happening and what we're being asked to do as members of the congregation. Another is that many of the hymns are in a verse response thing. So someone says the verse, the idea is that the people are supposed to respond in the refrain, just like they did long ago. The simple little refrains, Tes Benedias, Tis Theotokos, of course, is one. And then all the way through the service, the priest is saying a prayer, and many times the people are to finish that prayer, sometimes just with a simple Amen. Yeah. But people don't understand that many times. And I think this is an important building block for the success of encouraging congregational singing, is that people know why. And it really is a challenge, because what we're asking people to do, we're asking in our parishes, is to think differently about coming to church. It's no longer come and look and watch and look at as if you're at a play. It's the body of Christ is in the whole congregation, and all of us, all of you, your parishioners, have a role to play. It's not just the priest and the chanters or the priest and the choir or whatever. It's everybody has a role to play. Everybody is to pray. So the structure reminds us of this too. Okay, next. Well, there it is, the work of the people. I think one of the advantages of looking at hymn singing in church is that it does bring focus to the people. You know, they have to look in their hymnal, they read the prayers. But even beyond that, sometimes that can become rote too. I know a priest that said, it doesn't help to have people sing a perfunctory, Lord have mercy. They have to know that that's a prayer. You know, they have to feel that as a prayer to be true participants in the liturgy. Now, we know from science that hymn singing, has a lot of values, and I put a bunch of them up. And there's research done that there's actual physical benefits of singing, just singing anywhere. You'll see all the good things that happen. There's even emotional benefits, you know, reducing stress, giving a feeling of happiness to people, and also social benefits that I think relates to a congregation, especially fellowship, building this sense of community. But in thinking about this, I thought besides all these scientific areas that tell us singing's good for you, there's also some faith benefits, and I'd like to share some of those with you, some thoughts about those. The next one. Oh, almost. Understanding our priest, I'm from Buffalo, New York, and our priest has been talking a lot to us because we are getting many visitors and inquirers to church. And he talked a lot of us about thinking of ourselves as an assembly of Orthodox Christians, the community of God. So that this is, by coming to church, we're acting together to worship, to pray, to ask for blessings, to glorify God. That's an important function of the community of God coming together in a liturgy or in a service. And then next. And we thought that getting the notion of here is a family, the people of God worshiping together and sending our prayers to God as a unit. It's not just you all by yourself. The importance is that we're all together. My priest has another way. He takes it a little bit further, and he calls the coffee hour, it's just not a social hour, he said. It's a liturgy after liturgy. He says it's the same family coming together now in the coffee hour, continuing the liturgy and the oneness in Christ we are one, being the church family coming into the coffee hour. So there's a nice way, and I'm sharing these ideas with you because I have a firm belief that the people have to understand we're just not making you sing in church, telling you to sing. There's some important theological reasons why, and I'm sure the priest could explain them much better than I am, but these are the things that people have to hear to help ease that transition into being a more active congregation. Okay. Oh, I shared this. I thought St. Ambrose, for it is powerful bonding of unity when such a great number of people come together in one choir, when all sing in the community of the Spirit. Nice bulletin quote to put in. Okay, next, George. Thank you. And this one is the more practical thing. All parishes are different, and there's a whole bunch of ways that you can be different. Some give you advantages in starting a program of hymn singing. Others make it a little bit more difficult. I think the most important one I put right at the top, and it comes from Tom Pallid, who was in Northridge, California, one of the early founders of the National Forum of Church Musicians, and he wrote this first booklet, little handbook, on a guide to congregational singing. And in it, he says that the most important thing is thelesis, the will to do it. And it's a long process, but there needs to be the will and the desire, even among a small group of people to keep going at it. And then all of these differences that happen. Many of you have said, we're doing great in congregational singing, but we have a lot of converts. And that's true. If you have people new coming into the church, discovering Orthodoxy, they're going to sing because they sang in the Episcopal Church, they sang in the Protestant churches. That's a great help. Because I think that another psychological thing, if you were all a little, singing in here, you were close to each other in a small room. It's easier to sing together here. When you're in a big cathedral type church and it's, maybe 70, 80, 90 people and you're spread far apart, it's intimidating to sing. And you notice what I did in the beginning, trying to encourage people to come forward. You have to do that. If you're in a small chapel, it's going to be a little bit easier on the people. The type of music that your church is using, the language that you're using, all of these create differences. Whether you use an organ or not, which is another whole topic, but there is something to be said about the organ being a help and supporting it. I always think of the Angomia. It's a lot easier to get the congregation to sing along with you, at least in the beginning, when you have that organ accompaniment underneath. It's not necessary, but parishes may decide to do it that way. So those are just a recognition that there's no one way to do this, and all of these are things that affect what you choose to do in your parish.
But
So some pre-planning. Here's some questions I think you need to think about first. I would suggest that if you are not doing congregational singing, or it's not happening organically, as some of the fathers have told me today, that you bring together a group that includes the priest, the choir director, the chanter, and the Sunday school principal coordinator. And that becomes your planning group to look at how are we going to do this? And you spend quite a bit of time thinking about this, and these are some of the questions. So I thought we'd go through them quickly and look at some ideas about each one. So what hymns that you start with? It's the next one, George.
say I think they were penalty.
These are some suggestions I would make. And the reason is, especially the first one, if you have a parish that may not be singing at all, you want something simple, you want something easy to remember, and you want something that's done a lot. And the litanies, the Lord have mercies, are it's easy, and people get used to it. And I think it's getting people. I have a tough parish in Buffalo. They're not real far into congregational singing, but they're getting there. But they're not singers. And when you have a parish where you don't have singers, maybe you start with the Lord have mercies. A second one, and this is a conversation we had with Archbishop Elpiethoforos, the presidents of the church music federations in each metropolis had an audience with him, and he talked to us about a recent visit he had made, this was a year ago, to a church, I've forgotten where, out in West. And he was so struck by how the entire congregation sang the church hymn. And he said, how wonderful that this is the bonding of the congregation. This is your church hymn. When I talk to the little kids about it, I say, do you have a school hymn? Do you have a fight song? Well, this is like our alma mater. This is our hymn. And do they know, who was Saint Spiridon? The hymn is teaching them things and teaching the congregation. What's the hymn of the Annunciation all about? It's a beautiful thing. Here's the icon that goes with our church hymn. There's plenty of teaching opportunities and to use the church hymn.
kind.
Sure.
How far are we away from having standard musical presentation of the predominant church name hymns? Because we have a church hymn, everybody has church hymn. But if you go to one Dormition parish,
Oh,
you go to another
yeah.
Dormition parish, and another Dormition parish, all three of them have.
I'm different. That's true.
So it would really help the cause if someone travels to one parish or another parish, that the same hymn for St. George is sung.
That's right. That's a problem anywhere. We're not. Yeah.
Well,
Well, pretty far. This has the translation. If you're the Church of the Holy Cross, it's in here. The standard translation is in here. If I don't even remember what the other ones are.
To answer that real quickly, I mean, if we were all standardized, truly all standardized, so DCS has a standard translation of Dormition, and we could use it parish-wide for every Church of the Assumption in English translation. And the development, I would assume that the development of these hymns of English probably came in different types,
Sure.
way before DCS, and
And with different people.
with different people. So now that we do have DCS, in theory, we do have a standardized translation by the Archdiocesan. And
Yeah, but even then, that changes.
Yeah.
You're right, Father. At a practical level, I think, and Vicki, thank you. This is great.
Thank you.
On a practical level, if we can just get our own parish parishioners to sing whatever version that they want is fine. Because translation, by its very nature, is always changing. So what we may have today, maybe it'll last 5 years, but it will change again, whether we like it or not. So whether at a practical level, we can get our own parishioners. We'll sing, know that, that's what we're doing. That's great.
Yeah.
with the translation change, goes to the music. Absolutely.
It should. It should. Yeah, it should.
So my current parish, is it's terrible music wise. I mean, there's certainly very awkward points. I mean, they've been using this one translation for, I don't know, dozens of years, and so it's a lick to get
To know it. Yeah.
and to give them accustomed to the idea that hymns might
Change. Yeah.
with translation.
Change is hard. Yeah.
Might change. What's a little bit of a leap?
Yeah. And I'll confess to you, there is a standard-ish translation for the Church of the Annunciation, but in Buffalo, they've sung "Today is the beginning of our salvation." That's the first line. I kept it, even though I was advocating, using some of the standard hymns in English. I kept it because it's easier to explain that to the kids. Today is the crown of our salvation is tough to explain to little 5-year-olds. My 5-year-olds know what the meaning of the Church of the Annunciation, the hymn with the translation, and the parish then is comfortable. So we go with it. We know we might get into trouble if we go to another parish of Annunciation, but I think we're putting our money first on making sure our parish is singing. And our congregation is slow in coming to it. They'll sing it in Greek very well. The English is slow for them.
And Vicki, it's important for us to remember too that it's a very personal thing.
Yes.
And I forget, maybe someone here will. There have been wars over translations in Protestant countries. Wars over the change of a liturgical text. So that's why, Father, sometimes when priests get all, I'm not saying you, they get all upset with whatever I say. Just thank God that we got it in English. Because if we want a standardized text, because this could work against us, they'll be say, oh, there is a standardized text. It's in Greek. So you should do it in Greek. So I said to people, just be thankful that we have an English translation and you just go with that. And remember, there have actually been wars. People have died over the change of a liturgical language. So just be happy that we got the...
Yeah. Okay, I just realized,
with the Greek, how many times yesterday did we hear "Pia tu stavro so"?
Yeah.
oh, yeah, people catching up, yeah. I just realized I skipped, I wanted to, I'd like to have Barbara share something too now, because all of these questions that we have, especially the first three, there are resources now that, and we're going to share with you the resources that the National Forum has produced. There are others too, not to say that other people aren't working on it, but Barbara will show you how you can work through the first three plans.
Well, and the resources that we have are through the National Forum. And with what hymns will you start with? Well, if you happen to have the hymnal in your pews, this is perfect. And for the people who, because it has the music there. And a good number of people in the congregation perhaps don't read music, but at least it's a cue to them that this is where you sing. They see the notes, so they know they're supposed to sing. And if it goes up, they go up a little bit. And even if they don't do that, and they learn it by rote from hearing and singing along, that's fine. But at least it's a cue that this is where you sing. So this is the New Standard Translation, and it should be what the choir is singing, what the chanters are singing, and what the priest is singing. That's very important. So each time they hear a version of it, it's not a different translation if you're doing it in English. This hymnal matches. It happens to be the arrangement, the newer arrangement by Kevin Lawrence. So the melodies are based on this. So it's the same melodies and, of course, the same translation.
For the choir.
For the choir, yes. So those match, and that's like a companion to the hymnal. Also, there are some other liturgies that use the standard translation in English, and this was around forever and ever. And then the English was put the rubanis, and it's simple music. The melodies are easily identifiable, even if it's being sung by a harmonized choir. So that's another resource that the National Forum has. George is working on the Anastasio, but that's going to take a little while because there's a lot there. And so that will be coming sometime in the future. And so those are the ones that the National Forum has, and you can order from. There are others, Anna Gallus and so forth. There are some others out there too, but they're sold by other sources. And you can find that information on the National Forum website. Some of the other resources for children, but in having the children learn it, the parents and adults can learn too. We have what is known as the hymn series. And this was produced many years ago, and it's been revised with the new English translation. And they're individual pamphlets that have an icon appropriate to go with the hymn, an explanation of the hymn in Greek and English, and teaching suggestions on each one. And there are 11, and they're the major hymns of the Divine Liturgy and a few feast day hymns that are included in this. And it started, when we started, we had cassette tapes, and then we got modern and went to CDs, and now you can get a thumb drive with the audio, singing, and somebody sings it, and then our children's voices singing it, repeating it, and it's Greek and English. So that's a great resource for Sunday school, for families, for parishes to give. And as I said, as the children are learning it, the parents learn it too, if they don't already know. We have a guidebook for parishes starting a youth music program. And it comes from a music educator who has worked with children, and it tells all of the tips and the things that you can do specifically for starting the music program with the youth. And then this one isn't strictly for teaching music, but we always include it, a Holy Friday retreat. And this book has examples for Holy Friday retreat, things that you can do, and then, of course, incorporated with the program of the day for Holy Friday is hymn singing too. And there are ideas for several. So if you got this, you could use one year, one the other year, and then when you finish the all of them, those kids that you started with are grown up, and so you can go back to the beginning and rotate through them again. Lucy Papadakis has a display of them, and several of these. She brought multiples that you could buy today. But those are great resources that will help this. So as you have your planning committee and share the resources, the Sunday school representative might say, oh, yeah, we can use these. We'll do this. And how about if we teach this one and this one this year or whatever? And then some of the others that are like parish-wide. And then, of course, if you happen to have this in the pews, that might make your job a lot easier with getting the congregation involved. What melodies will you use? Again, it should be the chanters, the choir, the priest, they should all be doing the same one. So when the people hear it, they hear the same thing. It's like, oh, I learned that one, but now they're singing something different. This is something a good number of parishes put in the bulletin, like the Apologetikion for the day, that make sure that whatever you put in the bulletin are the same words that they will be hearing when they're sung, so they don't look at it and say, oh, gee, I thought, why aren't they singing the right thing? Anyway, okay? Yes, Chris?
See communication then with the church administrator or whoever puts together.
Yes,
Yeah.
but as Vicki said, having this core planning committee, they would go to them and say, okay, here are the translations. This is what we need to put in every week, and they would take care of that. The planning group. Yes, sir.
I'd like to address an elephant.
Okay.
Yeah, did you? Oh, they don't know. Well, it's on there. We got safety. Yeah, I get away problem, but I did have breakfast.
I bet I was a Cedar Pappas. I'm from the Holy Trinity Old Cross Living Being.
And we're Birmingham.
We're not Birmingham anymore.
No.
This three out. Father Paul Kospopoulos and I brought congregational singing to the parish about 15 years ago. And to listen to everybody sing throughout the liturgy and almost bring the rafters down was phenomenal. It really was phenomenal. Everybody followed in. It did take a while. I'm sure you're going to get to that. It took quite a while. Choir didn't want to come in and trot.
I'm curious to me, sing quite a while about how long?
15 years. Oh, we just started about 15 years. And we were using the old green book because it was some, but everybody sang through every hymn, literally. And the only thing that was left, I am Southie, and we were singing the Apologetikion and the hymns of the day that were on your parish for the choir. We would go back. So all this was fine. Then change comes. We have the change being the DCS becomes the standard maintained and then priest, and then congregational singing is still going. But gradually over the last 5 years, it's eroded, and it's eroded because how to say it wasn't good enough. It wasn't consistent with what was in VCS. So we have tones changing. We're trying to now adhere to the tones so that the many of the hymns in the middle of literature are changing. Parish doesn't know what to do because Salvies and choir have taken over that part of things. Yeah. And so there's this conflict now that we just must address. It's good to have the green book, and I love the updated version, but the reality is we're also dealing with a movement, if you will. And I'm not chanter, so I know the Byzantine part of it, but I also understand that when they're singing Byzantine music, nobody should follow us.
See, and it's a solo, or not a solo, but with us, it's a 3 or 4 side symbol. I'm just wondering how they're going to reconcile this, because this is, I mean, to me, this is the real conflict that we're not talking about really very openly. We're just kind of shaking at the I'm confused. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So confusing. So
Well, not that, but I'm confused.
Huh?
And it seems more like there's a problem with the leadership or the team. You should all be on board. Agree that, you know,
no, not everybody has to follow the DCS.
you don't have to follow DCS.
What? How did he not? If the chanters are.
If you agree, well, that's what I'm saying. That the chanters, when you have to make a decision, everybody, you should be working as a team.
Oh, I agree. If we can cover this quickly, no, we completely agree. But when you've got 2 polar opposites, you've got 3 buck, which everybody has known in various formulations or various versions of it come familiar with. In the DCS, which is different music, different translations, and then different tongues every.
So don't just DCS. Each of the week, got the people. You get that book person you're coming to reach out. Yeah,
Yes. Well, yes, and as if you go back to what Vicki had said earlier, every parish is different, and so they're going to have different issues and different solutions. But the group at the church, led by the priest, has to be the group that kind of smooths over those issues or comes up with solutions to those issues. And, you know, one way, there's not one way of doing it that will work in every single parish, because each of the parishes have a different issue.
I hate to say this, but I will. Until there's the DCS translation, like of those common hymns that we do, so much as the communion hymns, that's like, unless there's an law, it's not going to happen, because I even brought Father Seraphim Didi's 15, 16 years ago to St. Augustine, and all the priests of the Northeast Florida Conference bought into it. And now everybody's got their tablets, and the priest on the altar table, and yet the congregants still have the hymnal. No, the red, the maroon, and the maroon, and it was a choir. Anyway, what I'm saying is, it's chaos out there in the real world.
Yeah, and it is. But don't forget. It's my understanding that Father Seraphim's liturgy text is the Green Book's liturgy. That right now, that is the National Forum was very involved in the development of this hymnal, and Father Seraphim was too. He went on, but this text that the priest used, I'll get to you, Chris. This text that the priest used is in the DCS. Now there are, and then when it comes to the music, there are choices. And I can't remember now. If I look, this should be in there, so that if your parish has learned this, those choices, just like you can, when a hymn occurs, you can choose a hymn by Father Seraphim. You can choose a hymn by Nancy Takis. There's 2 or 3 different versions. But remember, the congregation doesn't necessarily read music. They're singing by rote. They're singing by rote and repetition.
At the same time.
And you can make those decisions. You know, right now we're just getting started on congregational singing, so let's keep our old melodies. You know, and people can still look on their laptop, if they don't even see the music. You have to click, on those little notes to get to the music. So the congregation would be okay, but eventually it is something that the parish has to resolve. Now, hopefully with the help of the National Forum, the Archdiocese, the Holy Synod has to come to grips with what is happening here. Because we're really, a while ago, before we had this, you couldn't sing anything in English in another parish. You couldn't even, if you had a funeral and you had people from different parishes, they could not even sing AMNIA in English because everybody had a different version. This helped to bring it in a little bit. Now we're in another phase where it's going out a little bit.
So it is a very tough elephant to deal with. But I think if you keep your focus on what's best for your congregation and keep everybody sort of together in that planning committee.
And at the very least, should we be using the new green book though instead of
This is the new green. Yeah, I'm talking.
15 years ago? What about your life? 3 years ago?
Yeah, they have the new. Yeah.
Just all
Chris, and we have to move on too because we have to leave this room and when our time is up. Chris.
no, it's okay. So if I can address, we do workshops and the lesson demos to cater to each parish. One of the things that we do is, like Vicki said, meet with the priest, the parish council president, the psalteries, the choir, and I'll go ahead and say, one of the things they do is say, what do you want? So if it's new priest coming in, and let's say you're changing the text, you're changing everything like that, that has to be a drop. Now what is the responsibility of that parish to say, why are we making these changes? If you're going to be a congregational singing parish, and let's say it is going to be a congregational singing parish, then the institutional knowledge has to be in there of what does congregational singing mean. If you're trying to do everything in different modes, then that means there has to be a reason for it. And if you want people to join in, then you have to have the text appropriate to that. And as the people learn the cycle of the deep those, they're going to eventually learn. It takes a couple cycles, but they'll learn it. And some things, won't always be congregationalism, right? And so I think that it's up to then the leadership, right? The leaders has us and that's teach the people. Have a Wednesday night Orthodox study class on the liturgies. And that's what the person and then go from there. Knows it out. Thank you. No problem. Me. The Ireland.
Okay, can I go on? Because some of the coming up slides help address some of the things that Chris just talked about, if I would, and then we'll take questions too as we go on. But I want to at least skim over some of these. This is some guidance. I put. I have this thing about number 5, idem in de force. Right after communion, doesn't it seem to your congregation, to you, well, shouldn't we all be saying, we have seen the light? There's a good reason to choose that one because of what's just happened in the liturgy. So anyhow, let's go on to the next slide. Well, we talked about the melodies, but there's an important point here I wanted to make. It's very, very important. I think it's a pastoral issue in my mind that the choir and the chanters know that they are not going to be supplanted by congregational singing. What I talk about an elephant in the room. The worst thing that can happen to a parish is all of a sudden the choir is told, "You're done. We're going to congregational singing." You've lost people, probably. People are hurt, whatever. There's room for all of them. And again, Tom Pallett, Father Michael's dad, said there's a role, there are hymns that are very necessarily should be congregationally sung, the ones I said. There are other hymns that the chanters or the choirs could sing because they're too complicated for the the cherubic hymn maybe can do it, but a feast day hymn that occurs once every 60 years, Saint Polytikion, that's a hymn for the choir. Some of the others, there's just lots of opportunities to have the choir having a part, the chanters having a part, and the congregation having a part. And that's very important, I think, for the choir people and the chanters to know. And it mostly affects the choir people because you hear about, we've got choirs that have disappeared. And so it's become a necessity to move to congregational singing. But that doesn't mean the choir is gone forever. Start with the little kids, start getting a youth choir going, start building toward having another choir. They're not bad things to have in a parish, but they have a different role. Anyhow, I got ahead of myself. So the melodies, the choir can still sing parts. You say, you heard maybe some of I think we were singing parts when we did Agios o Theos together, but the melody was there, clear, and something familiar that the people knew. So it is simpler music, and the choir may have to get used to that because the music that maybe we were singing 10, 20 years ago is not where we are right now. And so the choirs may have to start thinking about readjusting their repertoire too, especially when you want the congregation, because the choir should be leading the congregational singing.
Excellent. Real quick, I'm a choir director at one of the larger choirs whose codes have been. But the important thing that I take it from all this, congregation needs to be able to follow the walls. And with the tip to share with this bigger choir, which is anytime you remember, and that's repeated 3 times. I always do the first verse in one language.
Yes.
Second verse, the other language.
Perfect.
English. And only the third time do I break into part. And in that way, the congregation can follow along because they've heard the melody every Sunday.
Good.
And on every hymn that's up there. So it's just
Good. That's a good idea, Paul. Yeah.
how you start.
Yeah.
The melodies in the ears, and they'll take it and things the rest of their lives. My choirs accept it, and that's the way to go.
Yeah. Good ideas. We talked about the common text, and then just being teachers, the idea is it just has to be repetitive. It has to be the same every Sunday, the same all the way during the service. Kyriakos, and can we go to the next one?
Yeah, just brief. What I don't see on that script, sorry, I need to switch it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
On there, but I wanted to comment was what's really important for this is accessibility of the melodies. It needs to be predictable. It needs to be commonly heard and understood to all supporting. If you repeat it multiple times and you get that in your ear, and then the chanters repeat the third time, they do a totally different style. We've all heard it as recently as yesterday.
You can't do that.
Want people to sing along.
Yeah.
So if you make it accessible, they will follow.
Right.
Something that I liked that I saw up in Anchorage, Alaska, actually, St. John Antiochian Cathedral, whenever they do the kontakion or anything specific for that day or different melody that they're usually doing, they print out a small half sheet of just the melody line with the words, and they put that right in front of your tongue. You give the doors to the church, and you pick that up on your way in.
Pew cards. It's a similar thing.
But they always have them right at the door when you're coming in. Anything that's different from your typical congregational singing,
Yeah.
is printed in a different color. So you say, oh, I need the red one, I need the yellow one.
Yeah.
You want it. And then once you look up and you see the chanters holding it up, the choir's holding it up, that's the color.
Yeah. The cues. Sure.
Those are used for specific hymns that you want congregations to sing with you, but that they don't sing often. So maybe if you want to do Lenten hymns that way, your first time through, and still leave some of the more difficult ones out for the congregation.
Yeah, Tipin Makors.
Is that the choir again can repeat the third time, maybe breaking half parts still, but now you have an accessible way to engage.
Right. Good. Okay. What is the clergy's role? I think it's crucial that the clergy is the chief promoter, the chief enthusiast, and the chief teacher. I think the clergy that's where the people have to hear, why are we doing this? Why are we asking you? And you all know it much more fully and better than I described at the beginning, but that has to be talked about with the congregation. And then second, I think that there are plenty of opportunities for the clergy to take the part of educating the theology of the hymn, and again, how you do it in your church, if you want to make it a sermon, talk about what the meaning of the beautiful meanings, helping people to see why certain words were used or what the purpose of this hymn is. Or maybe you do it as a homily at the end of the service and talk about, maybe you go to the ministries, not just the choir and the chanters, but maybe you go to the Philoptochos and talk to them about their patron saints, Cosmas and Damian. And then the clergy could be a person that prompts during the liturgy. What I'll share quickly what my priest did at the beginning when we started with the church hymn. He came out. It came out very smooth. And my priest, Father Christos, is a pretty classical, priest, But he was willing. He came out and he said, "Today we're going to say," and he gave 2 or 3 sentences, and that's when he talked about the unity of God and what we're about in church. That was the first couple of weeks. Then he came out and he said, "Take your golden cards out. It's time now." And he went back in very, very seamlessly. Another priest I know that we're a group had started, he's a little different personality-wise, and I think they were doing the Kyrie eleisons. And all of a sudden you heard, "I can't hear you." He said that from the audience. But not everybody is comfortable. But there are ways that the priest can help prompt too. 5 more minutes left? Oh my gosh. Okay. Wow. Let's go quickly. The choir and the chanters are your leaders. But we talked about it just a little while ago. You have to modify the Sida. And again, I'll go back to the congregational guide. There's a really nice chart at the end of it where the 3 people sit down, the priest, the choir director, and the head chanter. And here's an outline, and you negotiate who's going to sing what. Congregation, chanters, priests. Nice little worksheet. Everybody agrees, so things go pretty smoothly. Okay, let's go on. I'm going to just go quickly I think you need a PR campaign. You need to set a date, maybe a month ahead. But in that month, there's all sorts of things you can do. And George, we can just go through all of them. Okay, so that's a start. Then go on. Oh, some of the priests have kept the congregation at the end of liturgy and said, next in 2 weeks we're going to sing Tesperas Vias together, so let's have a little lesson. The priest actually taught the lesson to the congregation. Just, it was 10 minutes after liturgy. Everybody was still in church. He didn't distribute Antitheron yet. He kept them in church, and they talked, and then he said, "Now, next week, we're going to do it, and I'll be listening," and it worked. It worked. Okay, can I just go through real quickly? Some people actually set up practice sessions and say, we're going to sing together. And Saturday morning, a bunch of us are going to get together. We're going to practice the hymns that we're going to sing. So they actually draw people in, and they end up having a core group of singers then that can help the congregation. I've gone to ministry meetings before we started. I went to Philoptochos and we learned the church hymn. I went to the soup kitchen people and I went to the Sunday schools and we taught it before we even did it in church. And then because choir people, are in those ministries. So now I know that I've got a choir person set up in the soup kitchen that they can lead the singing of a hymn. If the soup kitchen people do a prayer before they do their work, that there's a choir person there. Okay. Also, we had some parishioners ask us for MP3 files, and all we did, the choir just took the iPhone and recorded the hymn, the church hymn, and we turned it into an MP3 file. And when we could have sent it out with the bulletin, or people asked for it, we had it. They like listening to it in the car, is what they said. It helped. And then we already talked about the cue card. So it's slow. I hope it doesn't take 15 years, but I'm figuring 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
It is 2 years.
2. Oh, I thought you said 15.
Or 15 years.
Oh, okay. 2 years is about, yeah. Or maybe even a little bit longer. This one is important, I think, too. If for instance, the church hymn just isn't going, switch to another hymn, and work on it. Or vice versa. If the church hymn is really going well, start another hymn. So little by little, you're building up that repertoire of the congregation. Okay? This one, the measure of your success, goes back to what I said. It's not the loudness. It's not how loud you're. It's is the congregation engaged in the liturgy? Are they praying together as the body of Christ? And it could be soft. It doesn't have to be loud. Like this one. Is that we're ended? I didn't get to the. Oh, can we? Yeah, I'll go through them real quick. Focus on the youth. Make sure hymnology has to be taught in the Sunday schools. It has to be. And call in your choir people. Even though they're finishing up the liturgy, one could go and teach the classes, but there really has to be the program. But you also have to get the kids into church and let them sing in church. Okay? Let's keep going. Okay. Here's the top 10. Every parishioner and kid should know these top 10. These are the Ole Mazie hymns that started us off. This is where the hymnal began. The National Forum said we're going to get translations of these 12 hymns, was top 10. And that led to us being asked by the Archdiocese to do the hymns for this hymn book when they gave us the text. Okay. This is the one I didn't want you to leave without. Ask every ministry to start their meetings, maybe not with the church hymn, but with a hymn. Okay. Even now, Father Chrysostomus gave me an idea at least, because I always thought even the parish council, you think those guys are going to sing the church hymn. If they know that Evlogitos Christou Theos is a prayer to seeking guidance in making good, spiritual guidance in making decisions, isn't that the reason to start off with that hymn? Maybe would do. When you have luncheons after church, we always wait for the priest to give the blessing. Start first saying, all right, first, before I bless the food, I'd like us to sing the church hymn. Every single time you do a luncheon. You might have, instead of a Bible study group one time, maybe during Lent, your Bible study group changes into a hymn study group. And you look at the hymns of Holy Week, and each week you discuss a hymn and learn that hymn. So lots of ideas to create. I think there's another slide of that. Join the choir of the chanters. Oh, I wanted to do this. How much more time do we have? Do you have time to end? It's way past? Okay.
60 seconds.
If I may, it's a shame to be able to be rushed. Because we Orthodox are too arrogant. We make fun of our Protestant brethren. But you know something? Could we say we're the church? They're not liturgical. But God bless the Protestants. They take their music seriously. Yes, we do. And this is not only a huge problem, this is probably one of the major problems in the church today. I'm at St. Nicholas, we've got the good parish. And the DCS is not a cure-all, by the way. It's just as, Bozart was. We at St. Nicholas, it's our Holy Week, and we had to have the hymns, the services read, because we didn't have enough people committed to those services. Wow. So this is a huge problem. And because of two priests, oftentimes I fill in the smaller parishes and the priests are away. I can tell you that they have the same issues of large parishes. The priest will call me and say, Father, just so you know, there'll be no work for us because the chanter is my kid. And when he's coming with me or she's coming on vacation, there's no work for us. And don't be surprised that there's sections of the liturgy that are also going to be read. But we Orthodox are good. We stick our noses up the Protestants with their guitars and what I say, something, God bless them. They spend not tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars in their music ministry, and we have to be rushed. There's just about 4 times the amount of people. I'm telling you, it's a problem. And my last thing is, how many people see we're distracted in our churches, but they're beautiful, and the guys with their robes, and so visually, it's a distraction. But I've said one time that imagine closing your eyes, and hearing the music sung How many people walk off the street and say, I'm never coming back? We run into the hills. So with all due respect to Byzantine music, that's not the cure either. It may be a sanctified form, and it is. When you go to Slavonian countries, they don't sing Byzantine style. You go to Africa, they don't sing this. We have to be respectful. I'm not against Byzantine music, by the way. I've learned the Byzantine music at Ward Wells Seminary. But there's room for all kinds of music. There's a rich liturgical music, and we should be sticking up our noses at anyone. No should we think Byzantine style is the cure or whatever, but to be loving and respectful. And to your last point, the priest isn't a boss in the parish. So I'll address the other elephant. I'm the Albrecht priest. And for me, we loving and kind. And we remember that the parish belongs to everyone, not to the priest. And the priest has to be careful because he's outnumbered.
Ever kind of the first stuff going on. We also thought that it's a
I know that some of you have to leave, but can we just end on one thing? And it's a paraliturgical hymn done a lot in the Antiochian church, but it's wonderful for bringing this feeling of we're a church family, whether we're in church, coffee hour, when people have birthdays or anniversaries. So let's just sing it. Okay, some of you know it. God grant you many years. God grant you many years. God grant you many years. Peace and prosperity. God God grant you many years. Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you.